It was an ordinary day on December 7, 1941, but it ended up becoming a date that will live in infamy. Fast forward to July 26, 1945, the Allies issued an ultimatum to Japan: unconditional surrender or complete destruction. The Japanese government ignored this threat, little knowing that something devastating was about to happen. In the summer of that year, the Allies' Manhattan Project created two types of atomic bombs: Little Boy, uranium-based, and Fat Man, plutonium-based. The top-secret plan to drop the first bomb involved 6 B-29 bombers heading to Hiroshima. The Enola Gay carried the bomb, while the great artiste measured the explosion and the necessary evil took photos. Other aircraft flew an hour ahead to check the weather. At 8:15 a.m. on August 6th, Hiroshima time, the Enola Gay dropped Little Boy. It detonated at an altitude of 1,900 feet, releasing energy equivalent to 15,000 tons of TNT. Can you imagine that? This explosion devastated everything within a 1-mile radius, with fires spreading over more than 4 square miles. The Enola Gay was 11.5 miles away when it felt the shockwaves. 3 days later, on August 9th, the B-29 named Bockscar took off, with Kokura as the primary target and Nagasaki as Plan B. The plan was nearly identical to that of Hiroshima. The Bockscar, accompanied by other B-29s for instrumentation and photographic support, dropped Fat Man over Nagasaki at 11:01 a.m. It exploded 47 seconds later at an altitude of 1,650 feet, releasing energy equivalent to 21,000 tons of TNT. The atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki resulted in the deaths of between 129,000 and 226,000 people, mostly civilians. This was the only time nuclear weapons were used in war. Japan surrendered on August 15th, just 6 days after the Nagasaki bombing, ending World War II. These events initiated a nuclear arms race between the US and the Soviet Union, forever changing global politics. Today, the most powerful nuclear weapon in the US arsenal is the B-83, a thermonuclear bomb with an adjustable destruction capacity from a few kilotons to 1.2 megatons of TNT, approximately 80 times more powerful than the Hiroshima bomb. It was designed to prevent accidental detonations, incorporating insensitive explosives in its firing system. This bomb is also considered for the Nuclear Bunker Destruction Project, capable of penetrating soil, rock, or concrete to deliver a nuclear warhead to an underground target. The B-83 has also been explored for diverting threatening asteroids. This would involve launching 6 of these warheads in spacecraft to alter the trajectory of any asteroid that posed a significant threat, effectively safeguarding the planet. The B-83 is currently the most powerful nuclear weapon in the US arsenal, but it was surpassed by a previous device, Castle Bravo, detonated on March 1, 1954. It holds the record as the most powerful nuclear device ever detonated by the US. The fireball generated by the Castle Bravo explosion was over 4.3 miles wide and reached temperatures higher than the core of the Sun, approximately 180 million degrees Fahrenheit. The explosion carved out a crater 1.2 miles in diameter and 250 feet deep. The mushroom cloud rose to a height of 8.7 miles and a width of 6.8 miles in 1 minute, expanding at speeds exceeding 360 mph. The extensive explosion contaminated over 7,000 square miles of the Pacific Ocean. The Castle Bravo explosion had a yield of 15 megatons of TNT, equivalent to 1,000 times the power of the Hiroshima bomb. The explosion was so intense that it made the bones of individuals nearby visible through their flesh and skin. Initially, it was expected to yield about 6 megatons, but the actual result of 15 megatons was much higher, making Castle Bravo the 6th largest nuclear explosion in world history. Before the first use of a nuclear weapon against Japan, Soviet scientists were already exploring the potential of nuclear weapons and conducting their own research. Officially, the Soviet Union was unaware of the Manhattan Project until July 24, 1945, when US President Harry Truman informed Stalin at the Potsdam Conference. This was just 8 days after the successful detonation of the first nuclear weapon. Despite their wartime alliance, the US and Britain were reluctant to share details of the Manhattan Project with the Soviets, fearing that the knowledge could reach German spies. In the immediate post-war years, the US maintained a monopoly on the specific knowledge and materials needed for nuclear armaments. But secretly, the Soviet government was working on building its own atomic weapons. This effort culminated in the detonation of the first Soviet atomic bomb on August 29, 1949, known in the West as First Lightning. This device was a copy of the Fat Man bomb. In the early 1950s, the US maintained unquestionable superiority over the USSR in nuclear capabilities, and the Soviets had no effective means to deliver nuclear warheads to the US, making a retaliatory nuclear attack unfeasible. Recognizing the Soviet Union's strategic disadvantage in nuclear armaments, Nikita Khrushchev felt compelled to respond to what they perceived as US nuclear blackmail. This led to the development of the Tsar bomber, originally designed as a 3-stage hydrogen bomb with a potential yield of approximately 100 megatons of TNT, roughly 6,666 times the power of the Hiroshima bomb. It was thought that this would result in too much nuclear fallout, and the aircraft delivering the bomb would not have enough time to escape the explosion. To reduce fallout, the designers replaced the uranium-238 fusion tamper of the 3rd stage, and possibly the 2nd stage, with a lead tamper. This modification prevented the rapid fission of neutrons from the fusion stage, ensuring that about 97% of the bomb's total yield resulted from thermonuclear fusion alone. This made the Tsar Bomba one of the cleanest nuclear bombs ever created, producing relatively minimal fallout compared to its immense yield. This was crucial, as any fallout would likely affect populated areas within the Soviet Union. Nikita Khrushchev, the first secretary of the Communist Party, publicly announced the upcoming test of a 50-megaton bomb during the 22nd Congress of the Communist Party on October 17, 1961. Before this formal announcement, he had casually mentioned the bomb to an American politician, leading to its premature disclosure in the New York Times on September 8, 1961. The Tupolev Tu-95 aircraft, tasked with transporting the enormous Tsar Bomba, took off from Olenia Airfield and headed for the USSR Ministry of Defense test site in Novaya Zemlya, crewed by a team of 9. Accompanying the Tu-95 was a Tupolev Tu-16 laboratory aircraft equipped to monitor the test. Both planes were painted with special reflective paint to reduce heat damage during the explosion. Despite these precautions, the crews of both aircraft were informed that their chances of surviving the test were only 50%. The bomb, weighing 66,000 pounds and 6.9 feet in diameter, was so large that the aircraft had to remove the bomb bay doors and fuselage fuel tanks. A 1,764-pound parachute covering an area of 17,222 square feet was attached to the bomb. This parachute was crucial as it allowed the bomb to slow its descent, giving enough time for the release and observation aircraft to distance themselves approximately 28 miles from ground zero, thus maintaining their survival chances at 50%. 2 hours after takeoff, the bomb was dropped from an altitude of 34,400 feet above the Sukhoi Nose test site. It detonated at 11:32 a.m. Moscow time on October 30th, 1961, at an altitude of 13,780 feet above the Mityushika Bay. At the moment of detonation, the Tu-95 had reached a distance of 24 miles from the explosion zone. Despite this distance, the shockwave reached the aircraft 72 miles away, causing it to drop approximately 3,280 feet in altitude. Miraculously, the crew managed to regain control and safely land the aircraft. Initial estimates reported the nuclear yield of the Tsar Bomba at 58.6 megatons. Despite predictions that the Tsar Bomba's fireball could touch the ground, its own shockwave prevented this from happening. The fireball, 5 miles wide, reached nearly the altitude of the release aircraft and was visible almost 621 miles away. Observations were made from places as far as Norway, Greenland, and Alaska. The mushroom cloud rose to an impressive height of 41.6 miles, nearly 8 times the height of Mount Everest, placing it well above the stratosphere and mesosphere. At its peak, the cap of the cloud expanded to a width of 59 miles, while its base extended to 24 miles wide. The shockwaves circled the globe 3 times. The Tsar Bomba remains the most physically powerful device ever detonated on Earth, marking the most powerful nuclear bomb test and the largest man-made explosion in history. However, the Tsar Bomba was never intended to be a practical weapon. It was a single demonstration designed to exert psychological pressure on the United States. By the mid-1960s, both the United States and the Soviet Union had amassed enough nuclear firepower to completely destroy each other. Each side developed the capability to launch a devastating retaliatory strike even after absorbing a full initial attack, primarily through submarine-launched missiles. This capability, known as a second strike, sustained the policy of mutually assured destruction, or MAD. This doctrine held that any nuclear attack by one side would result in the total annihilation of both the attacker and the defender, theoretically deterring either side from initiating a conflict. Nearly 80 years have passed since the first nuclear detonation in the Trinity test, and we are still living in the shadow of these powerful weapons that may very well prove to be our great filter. And so we conclude this journey through the history of nuclear weapons, from the fateful attack on Pearl Harbor to the creation of the Tsar Bomba. These stories are not just events of the past, but milestones that shaped global politics and humanity's perception of its own power of destruction. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Leave in the comments what you thought and suggestions for future videos. Your opinion is very important to us. Thank you for watching and see you next time.